Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something today that might just shift the course of your life. Don't be afraid of your hard time. God will do better for you. It's easy to have faith when everything is smooth. When the money is flowing, the relationships are blooming, the doors are opening. Oh, it's easy to praise then. But true faith shows up when nothing makes sense. When you're walking through the fire, when you're in the valley, when you're praying, but it feels like the heavens are silent. That's where warriors are made. That's where champions are built. Now let me break something down for you. The hard time is not here to destroy you. It's here to prepare you. You think you're being buried, but baby, you're being planted. And there's a difference. When God puts a seed in the ground, he's not finished. He's just getting started. When you're in the middle of a hard time, it can feel like the world is collapsing around you. The walls are closing in, your strength is wearing thin, and everything in you wants to ask, oh, why? Me? It's in those exact moments that most people begin to question their worth, their calling, and even their faith. But the truth that so many miss is this. Your hard time is not punishment. It's preparation. See, when you're in a storm, it's easy to believe you've done something wrong. It's easy to think you've been forgotten or abandoned, but God doesn't send storms to punish his children. He allows certain pressures because he's developing something greater inside of you. Think about it. Every diamond begins as coal. It takes pressure, heat, and time to turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. And God is doing the same with you. Now, you might not see it right away. The process doesn't feel good. You might cry yourself to sleep. You might lose friends. You might walk away from things you once thought you couldn't live without. But in the midst of that pain, something is happening on the inside of you. Your patience is being stretched. Your character is being strengthened. Your spiritual vision is being sharpened. You are becoming someone who can carry the future God has designed for you. People often want the promise without the process. They want the success without the struggle. But without the process, the promise would crush you. If God gave you everything you prayed for overnight, you wouldn't know how to steward it. You wouldn't be able to recognize the snakes from the supporters. You wouldn't have the wisdom to handle the weight. That's why the hard time comes first, not to destroy you, but to equip you. Look at any great man or woman who has walked in purpose. They didn't get there without pain. Joseph was thrown in a pit before he ever sat in a palace. David fought lions and giants long before he wore a crown. Even Jesus himself walked through rejection, betrayal, and crucifixion before the resurrection. So why do we think we'll become great without going through something? The struggle is not a detour. It's the path. The fire is not your enemy. It's the forge. What's being burned away in the hard time? Ego, impatience, shallow faith. What's being added? Discipline, trust, wisdom, a deeper connection with the one who called you. And it's in that refining fire that your true identity begins to emerge. Not the version of you that's based on comfort and convenience, but the one built on conviction and calling. So when you feel like you're under pressure, don't panic. When things start falling apart, recognize that maybe they're falling into place. God is stripping away what you thought you needed to show you what you truly carry. He's not looking to give you a temporary breakthrough. He's shaping you to be a breakthrough for others. He's building you to withstand more, to impact more, to carry more, because what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. That pressure you're feeling, it's not your end. It's your becoming. Let it work in you. Because when you come out of this, you won't just be stronger, you'll be ready. Waiting can be one of the hardest things you'll ever do, especially when it feels like nothing is happening. You pray, you hope, you do everything you know how to do, and still, there's no breakthrough in sight. The doors stay closed, the silence lingers, and life seems to move forward for everyone but you. That's when the enemy of your purpose whispers the lie that it's never going to happen. That maybe God forgot you. That maybe you missed your moment. But let me tell you something. Just because it's delayed doesn't mean it's denied. God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should change his mind. If he said it, he's going to do it. But he's not just focused on when it happens. He's focused on who you are when it happens. He's not interested in giving you something you can't carry. The delay is not about denying you a blessing. It's about developing you into someone who can sustain the blessing once it arrives. So many people rush the process and end up with something they're not ready for. They step into relationships, platforms, careers, or opportunities without the foundation to keep them standing, and it all comes crashing down. That's why God, in his infinite wisdom, sometimes says, wait, not a no, just a not yet. Because while you're waiting, he's working. While you're sitting in what feels like a season of silence, he's in the background arranging every detail, lining up every resource, preparing every divine connection. The delay is sacred. It's a space where God reshapes your mindset, heals the hidden wounds, teaches you patience, and shows you who you truly are without the spotlight. You see, when you think you're waiting for the blessing, often the blessing is waiting for you, waiting for your maturity, your discipline, your surrender. And let's be real, there are things we've asked God for that we didn't even realize we weren't ready for. That job you think you want might come with pressure you can't handle yet. That relationship you've been praying about might require a level of emotional health and spiritual depth that you're still developing. That business or ministry you've envisioned, it may require the version of you that's on the other side of refinement, not the one still battling old fears and limited beliefs. So don't misread the delay. Don't assume the silence means you're off course. Some of God's greatest works are done in hidden seasons. Think about it. Seeds grow underground before they ever break the surface. Nobody sees what's happening, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. The roots are forming, the strength is developing, and when the time is right, that seed bursts forth, not just with life, but with resilience. This is why faith is so critical. Not just faith that God can do it, but faith that he's doing it right now, even when you can't see it. Faith that trusts his timeline over your own. Faith that holds on when the circumstances say you give up. Because when the wait is over and the blessing finally shows up, you won't be stepping into it by accident. You'll be walking into it prepared, equipped, and anointed. God is not trying to withhold anything from you. He's trying to prepare you for everything he has already appointed for you. And when it finally comes, and it will come, it won't just be good. It will be better than you asked, greater than you imagined, and perfectly timed for the season you'll be ready to receive it in. It's easy to get discouraged when your current reality doesn't look anything like the vision you've been holding in your heart. Maybe you had big dreams, plans you were sure would work out, or prayers you believed would be answered by now, but life has taken unexpected turns. You might be looking at your bank account and wondering how you'll make it through the month. You might be staring at an empty chair where someone you loved used to sit. You might feel stuck in a job, a routine, or a season that feels so far removed from what you were created for. And in those moments, the temptation is to let your situation speak louder than your spirit. But you have to remember this truth. Don't let your current situation define your future. What you see right now is not the full picture. It's not even the whole story. It's just a snapshot, a single frame in the middle of the movie God is still directing. Too many people get stuck in that frame. They start building an identity around their struggle. I guess this is all I'll ever be. Maybe I'm just not one of the lucky ones. They begin to shrink their dreams to match their circumstances instead of expanding their faith to match their calling. But your situation is not your identity. It's not your destiny. It's a season, not a sentence. Just because it doesn't look like anything is working right now doesn't mean God has forgotten you. He's still writing. He's still moving. He's still planning something beyond what you can see. You have to be careful what you agree with in the dark. When things go wrong, it's easy to start speaking defeat. I'll never get out of this. Things will never change. But those words have power. What you say in the struggle can either chain you to it or carry you through it. That's why you've got to speak life, even when everything around you feels lifeless. You've got to declare favor, even when you don't see it yet. You've got to remind yourself that where you are is not where you're staying. Even the greatest stories of transformation began in places of confusion, pain, or limitation. Think of the caterpillar in the cocoon. To the outside world, it looks like death. It looks like isolation. But inside, a metamorphosis is taking place. Wings are forming. Purpose is awakening. When the time comes, that cocoon breaks open, and what once crawled now flies. That's the kind of turnaround God is capable of, one that completely redefines everything you thought about yourself. You may feel overlooked, but you're not invisible. You may feel delayed, but you're not denied. God doesn't operate on your schedule. He works in divine timing, orchestrating every detail for maximum impact. And what looks like a detour is often the route that builds what your dream actually needs to survive long term. Sometimes God will allow you to sit in a place that doesn't match your promise. not to break you, but to teach you how to carry the blessing without letting it carry you. He lets you experience limitation so you can learn to lean on him, not just the gift. He allows moments of lack to teach you how to steward abundance. He lets the ground look dry so when he brings the rain, you'll know who made it pour. So don't lower your expectations just because your environment doesn't reflect your vision. Keep your eyes fixed on what's ahead, not just what's around you. Speak to your future, not from your frustration, because what you see today is temporary, but what God has spoken over you is eternal. There's something powerful about the valley seasons of life. Those low, quiet, often painful places where everything seems harder and slower than expected. Most people fear the valley. They want to escape it as quickly as possible, thinking it's a sign that something has gone wrong. The truth is, some of your most important growth doesn't happen on the mountaintop. It happens down in the valley. That's where your roots go deep. That's where your foundation is tested. That's where you learn who you really are when the applause fades and the spotlight dims. Mountaintop moments feel great. Success, recognition, answered prayers, open doors. We all love those seasons. But the truth is, you don't grow there. On the mountaintop, you celebrate what was built in the dark. You reap what was sown in struggle. You shine because of the strength you found when no one was looking. But in the valley, that's where the real work happens. That's where your faith is formed. When you're in the valley, you're forced to rely on something deeper than feelings. Because let's be honest, your emotions in a hard season will lie to you. They'll tell you you're not good enough, that you're alone, that nothing is changing. It's in that very place when it seems like nothing is moving that God is doing his greatest work in you. You might not see the progress right away, but that doesn't mean there isn't any. Some of the strongest roots are formed in the darkest soil. The valley teaches you endurance. It teaches you how to show up even when you don't feel like it, how to believe when the evidence is against you, how to keep walking even when you can't see the next step clearly. In the valley, prayer stops being a routine and starts becoming your routine. Stop leaning on your own strength and start drawing from a deeper well. You find out how strong your spirit really is, not when everything is going your way, but when everything seems to be falling apart. Here's what most people miss. The valley is not just a place of testing. It's a place of equipping. You're gaining tools in this season that you will need later. You're learning how to fight in private before you ever face battles in public. God is building your character, your discernment, your humility, your consistency. These are the things that will sustain you when the elevation comes. You also develop compassion in the valley. When you've walked through pain, you're more sensitive to the pain of others. When you've been lonely, you notice who's left out. When you've needed grace, you're more willing to give it. That depth of empathy doesn't come from the top. It comes from walking through the valley and remembering what it took to get through. And don't forget, even in the valley, you are not alone. Psalm 23 doesn't say, if I walk through the valley. It says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That means God doesn't leave you in the valley. He walks with you through it. His presence doesn't decrease in the valley. It becomes even more real. Sometimes it takes the absence of everything else to fully realize his presence. So if you're in a low place right now, don't rush out of it. Don't curse it. Don't waste it. There's treasure to be found in that place if you're willing to lean in, listen, and let the season shape you. Because what you build in the valley will carry you when you finally rise, and you will rise. But this time, with wisdom in your mind, strength in your soul, and fire in your spirit. Life has a way of surprising you. One minute, everything seems to be going according to plan, and the next, it feels like everything is unraveling. Doors you thought were open slam shut. People you trusted walk away. The opportunities you were sure were meant for you slip through your fingers. In those moments, it's so easy to see only the setback. It's easy to feel like you're going backward, like all the progress you made is now undone. But here's the truth. Most people miss in the middle of their disappointment. What looks like a setback is actually a setup. Sometimes God has to let things fall apart so he can build something better. Not because he's cruel, but because he sees the whole picture when you're only seeing a piece. What you thought was rejection might actually be redirection. That closed door might be God's way of protecting you from something that looked good on the surface, but would have broken you down the line. He's not just concerned with what feels good now. He's focused on what's going to grow you and keep you long term. We often ask God for miracles, but when the process to get there starts unfolding, we get discouraged. That's because the path to the promise rarely looks like the promise itself. Think about it. Joseph had dreams of ruling, but before he ever reached the palace, he was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Every step of the way probably looked like a setback, but in reality, it was a divine setup. Each stage was positioning him, not just geographically, but spiritually and mentally, for where he was going. Without the pit, there's no prison. Without the prison, there's no palace. Every step mattered. And the same applies to you. The layoff, the breakup, the delay, the rejection, none of it is wasted. Even if it didn't come from God, he'll still use it. He's a master of turning broken pieces into something beautiful. The enemy might have meant it for harm, but God's going to flip it and use it to elevate you. But you've got to shift how you see it. If you only see the pain, you'll miss the purpose. If you only see what's left, you'll miss what's coming. Sometimes God has to disrupt your plans to make room for his purpose. That business idea falling apart, maybe it was so you'd pivot into something that actually aligns with your gifts, that relationship ending. Maybe it was so you'd have the space to grow and meet someone aligned with your future, not just your comfort. The doors that close often grace in disguise. You just can't see it until later. But here's the key. Don't stop moving because you faced a setback. Don't camp out in disappointment. Don't let your faith die in the middle of the process. Setbacks are not signs to give up. They're signals that a shift is happening. Keep showing up. Keep praying. Keep praying. Keep believing, because the setup is already in motion. God is always working behind the scenes, even when it seems silent. He's positioning people, aligning resources, arranging timing, all in ways you couldn't imagine. And when the moment comes, it will all click into place. You'll look back and realize that every no was part of his bigger yes. Every delay was building your endurance. Every detour was teaching you to trust, not just in the outcome, but in the one who guides the journey. What feels like a loss might actually be a launch. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And when the season shifts, you're going to rise, not by accident, but by divine design. There's a powerful tension between what we feel and what we believe. In the middle of life's challenges, when the bills are piling up, the doctor's report is uncertain, the relationships are crumbling, it's natural to feel fear. Fear is loud. It screams worst case scenarios. It magnifies what's missing and tries to convince you that hope is foolish. But this is where the difference between living by fear and living by faith becomes everything. Even when you feel fear, you must learn to speak faith. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to believe and declare what God says, even when fear is present. That's what makes it powerful. Anybody can speak positively when everything is going right. Anybody can say God is good when they're winning, when doors are opening, when the blessings are visible. But true faith shows up when nothing around you looks like the promise, when the storm is raging, and you say, I still believe. Show believe. That's faith. That's spiritual strength. Your words have power. They're not just sounds coming out of your mouth. They are declarations into the atmosphere, seeds you are planting in your life. When you speak faith, you're not ignoring reality. You're choosing a higher reality. You're aligning with heaven instead of surrendering to fear. You're saying, yes, I see the problem, but I know the provider. Yes, I feel the pain, but I trust the healer. Yes, I've got questions, but I believe the one who holds the answers. And let's be honest, fear will always try to talk you out of your assignment. It will try to keep you small, silent, and stuck. It will whisper lies like you're not enough, you'll never get through this, or a God has forgotten you. But fear is a liar. It can only operate if you give it your agreement. That's why what you say matters. Don't give your voice to the lies. Don't let your tongue become a tool for your own defeat. You have to make a decision in those low moments. I will not let fear write my story. I will not let my emotions dictate my declarations. I will speak life. I will speak victory. I will speak truth. Not because I feel strong, but because I serve a strong God. There's a difference. It's in those moments of weakness that your declarations carry even more weight. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, he didn't fight back with feelings. He fought back with the word. It is written. That's the model. When fear rises up, you answer it with what God says. I am more than a conqueror. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. My God shall supply all my needs. He who began a good work in me will complete it. This isn't fake positivity. This is spiritual warfare. This is how you shift atmospheres and redirect your mindset. Speaking faith trains your spirit to rise above your circumstances. It activates heaven in your situation. It may not change everything overnight, but it changes you. And that's often where the breakthrough begins. There's a reason the enemy wants to silence you, because your voice has power. When you declare God's promises over your life, over your family, over your future, you are pushing back darkness. You are planting seeds of hope. You are building an atmosphere where miracles can take place. Fear wants you to speak death. Faith calls you to speak life. So even if your hands are shaking, even if your voice trembles, speak faith anyway. Let your words be a prophecy of your future, not a description of your struggle. Because when your mouth agrees with heaven, you give God something to bless. Speak it until you see it. Speak it until your heart believes it. Speak it until fear has no place left to hide.